Good morning, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you might be doing. We wish to welcome you to the Silverlight Show. The Silverlight shines to illuminate that which lies hidden in darkness. For those of you tuning in today, we welcome you in. You know, this time of year is the party time of year. Whether it's Christmas parties, New Year's parties, office parties, whatever it is, people are trying to celebrate their butts off. And you know what? That's a good thing. Personally, your old buddy Silverlight avoids these things because ultimately I find them very boring. The last good one I went to was in 2002, and that was because I was working for an establishment that was basically a tax write off. So they wanted to throw a big company employee party, and they threw it at a brand new golf resort that had just been opened that year. Like they threw so much money at these things, free taxi chits for anybody who decided to drink a little bit too much. Like it was really quite phenomenal. And after that, it's pretty much we're all meeting at X restaurant, Y banquet hall, whatever it is, and you're sitting there with your coworkers and discussing work because that's your common ground. You've already established that with the 8 hours, 8 to 10 hours a day that you're putting into your work. So basically, that's your frame of reference for each other. But something happened. Now, this person was acting in the best of intentions, and they offered to take my little girl to their company party. First thing I asked is, what is there to do for children? Well, there'll be food for children. And I said, no. And they were a little miffed at me. And this is a family member, by the way. I'm not talking some random stranger coming up to me. This is a family member. And yeah, they're a bit miffed at me because I put my foot down and I said no. But my reasons are pretty sound. First of all, it's basically an hour and a half bus ride to get there from here. We're working towards making that go away, but at the present time, that's the way things are. And you're going to go out with a preteen and force them to sit on the bus for that long for a little bit of pizza? No. Secondly, she's going to be there while you're talking to, hey, Jenny, remember last week when our inventory didn't show up and we had to, do whatever it is? She's going to be bored to tears. Now, the other thing is she's actually semi-grounded at the moment, but I'd already let her go out that day to visit family, so I can understand why my relative felt like I was being inconsistent. But, like I said, with my knowledge of these events, I know the way it used to be. Once upon a time, companies would try to bring a whole family to a Christmas party, and they still try to pressure you. Oh, yes, I've been there. Less than, well, it's actually in 2019. One of my coworkers, who I have a long history with because I went to high school with her, was afraid that at the Christmas party, I'd reveal what kind of person she really was. She was so afraid, she went to my boss, and he came to me and he said, first of all, what do you know about, I'm going to call her Lizel, because that way, plausible deniability and that side of the thing. And I said, well, no, just in high school, she wasn't the friendliest person. Let's leave it at that. Because nobody needs to know that history. We're in our freaking 50s. And, 7 years ago, she did something very nasty to me, and I haven't spoken to her since. And I have no intention of it. And I said, but she doesn't need to worry because I don't go to company Christmas parties. And then he put on the sales speech, oh, it's going to be great. Everyone's going to be there, blah, blah, blah. And I said, I already spend 8 hours a day with you guys. I really don't want to spend more time talking about logistics and trucking and this, that, the other thing. And they were quite put off by me, but I stuck to it. Now, ironically, Lysol was let go very shortly thereafterwards. I don't think I was the primary cause of it because, you know, the virus showed up. But the fact was, they were telling me how great this party was. Oh, yeah, we're going to have food and, drinks and stuff like that. And they didn't say anything about children. And I know they don't. Back in the old days, when companies were a bit smarter, see, when you bring children in, you want a family to come in, the children are going to screw around and they're going to get in trouble because that's what kids do. They're exploring their world. The way you get around that is you hire somebody, because if you ask one of your employees to do it, they feel like they're getting stuck with extra duties, and it's a lot of work. Think about that. You're going to have some kids that you can hold or hand out a bunch of coloring books to, and that'll occupy them for a little bit, and then you get them up, do kind of a Santa thing where you go to the dollar store, wrap all those presents, and get the kids to exchange them or whatever you're going to do. Trust me, it's a lot of work. Even in 2023, when we have the convenience of Amazon and we have printers and everything else, even 3D printers, it's still quite annoying. Annoying is the wrong word, but quite time consuming. And it is annoying because you're like, okay, this is going to keep them for the first hour, and then what am I going to do for a second hour? And that's why I said hire somebody. This is a job in itself. And that person probably has to dress up and pretend to be one of Santa's elves or something, which is fabulous for, the, the preschoolers in, grade 4. But you get into that preteen phase, and there's not really a lot that you can do with them. They don't want to do the children's stuff because they did the children's stuff already when they were younger. And they don't really want to do the adult stuff like the dancing. They're not interested in, oh, last year Jenny hooked up with Marty and, they were in the photocopier room. They're not interested in that sort of stuff. So they wind up basically sitting around bored. Maybe if they're lucky, they make friends with another child who's not obnoxious. And I say that because children have personalities just like we do. And there's a lot of people they don't like. And it doesn't matter. That's the way things are. So trying to drag a family into a company Christmas party or a New Year's party or whatever party, holiday celebration, name it anything you like so that way, everybody's comfortable. Dragging a child out to that is quite an investment. And people would rather just take it back to the 1800s and children are there to be seen and not to be heard. Life doesn't work like that. Little bit of wisdom for you. Silverlight was for a few years trying to become a teacher. And I've seen what happens when you ignore children. I wasn't ignoring them, but I was witnessing in a class and assisting and stuff like that. You do have to keep your eye on them. And assuming you have a party without alcohol, which is getting to be less of an assumption these days, but a lot of people are expecting to go and have a drink or two. Personally, you ever want to see somebody nurse a beer? You take Silverlight to a Christmas party if you can talk me into it. And that one beer will last me 4 hours. Literally, 4 hours. On a Friday night, it wouldn't last me 4 minutes. But yeah, because I've seen too many crazy things when people decide to let go in front of their bosses. So I'm already not having a good time. Not that I need alcohol to have a good time, but I'm stuck basically volunteering to go in and talk about work with people I talked about it 2 or 3 hours ago and subjecting my family to it. You can't just throw a party and expect people to show up. Your personal friends, your personal little crew, they'll show up. But unless you advertise and you let people know what's happening, it's just not going to happen. And just saying, oh, there'll be food there. Of course, it's a party. There's always going to be food at a party. To my knowledge, people that do fasting don't do it in a party setting. Well, it might be an interesting change to have some sort of group fasting party where maybe you just drink water and think about the universe. I don't know. I'm going to have to look up if that's a thing. If not, maybe I'll start it. But like I said, it's just very little planning goes into these Christmas parties. At most, they're going to contact a banquet hall and say, yep, everyone's having the chicken. Because almost everybody can eat chicken with a vegetarian option. Don't get into the beef, don't get into the pork. Even that is an hour's worth of negotiation. That's assuming that you have the budget to do it. A lot of places just open up their offices, throw some pizzas out on the side, and say, there's your party, everybody. Can you imagine going to a party with your friends and all they do is buy a pizza and say, there's your party, everybody? Remember, a party has to be for everybody who's invited. You have to think of these things. Remember children. Remember the disabled. They might not be interested in going to your party because they don't want to be there listening to loud music and listening to the same things droning on about. And for God's sake, don't bring politics into it. I think most people are getting that idea, but we still have a few people who are left behind. But yeah, for a successful party, remember the children. Because it's not that the parents don't want to take care of them, but the parents want to socialize and, figure out what they're going to do. And the children are just an afterthought, unfortunately, so you have to do the thinking for them. How can I say all this with such authority? I don't know. I've planned about 100 of these things. Oh, I'll plan them. They're fun to plan. But not so much fun to actually be at. Unless you take care of the children, the adults, and everybody in between. Because I know what Blake wants, doesn't mean I know what Blake's wife wants. And that's a lesson most of these places don't understand. So whatever the reason for you to celebrate the season, I hope you do have a happy holiday. Remember to include everybody. And we hope you enjoyed this episode of the Silverlight Show. If you did, please like, share, subscribe if you haven't already. Don't forget to click the bell down in the comments. And we'll see you in the new year.